of curriculum, which are the linguistic. Next, content-based, learner-centered, and learning-centered curriculums. And Aaron will talk about the linguistic-based curricula.
All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about linguistic based. There are six approaches. The first one being structural, which focuses on the structure of language, viewing language as a systematic role-based approach, like grammar, syntax, and phonology. Number two is notional functional. This one focuses on teaching language for real-life communication by revolving the content around functions and notions or concepts. So functions like hunger or requesting, and concepts like food, time, or quantity. Number three is academic language functions. This one gives students the language that they need in order to survive in an academic setting. So language related to textbooks, articles, and essays. Number four, genre and text-based. This one focuses on various real-world, authentic, and specific texts. One such example is English for specific purposes. Number five is vocabulary. This one focuses specifically on building a strong lexical foundation with the belief that vocabulary is essential to language learning. And number six is skills-based. This one focuses on the four language skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Some models separate these skills, but others combine their interrelated focuses. Now, what do these approaches share in common? They're all very specific in their goals, focusing specifically on vocab, work environments, real-world situations, and academics. They're very learner-focused with a learner's needs and goals at its heart, and they view language as a system, and they are all setting a foundation for real-world authentic contexts and goals. Next. So I'm going to compare linguistic-based with content-based and learner-centered approaches. So in regards to content-based, they both share commonalities with the academic world. So under linguistic-based, the academic language functions approach gives English language learners the words that they need in order to survive in academic context, while content-based goes a step further. And with CLIL, for example, they actually teach a subject in the target language. They both have a real-world focus. Both curriculars have English for specific purposes, for example, and the topical and situational approach also shares commonalities with notional functional by focusing on specific concepts and contexts like food, shopping, and music. In regards to learner-centered, they are very linguistic base is very learner-centered as they focus on a learner's academic and work needs. However, it differs very greatly in regards to the humanistic concept and even some of the negotiated terms. However, linguistic-based also shares commonalities with task-based curriculum as they both focus on different methods to bring real-life tasks to the classroom. Next.
Hi, so I will be going over content-based curricula. Content-based instruction, or CBI for short, is the term most commonly used as an umbrella term to refer to all types of programs that make a dual commitment to content and language development. The integration of content and language, it involves learning in a curricular subject through the medium of a non-native language, such as studying history or geography in English. English for a specific purpose, or ESP, is part of this approach. For topical and situational approaches, topical focuses on specific themes or topics, such as science, travel, health, as the foundation for language learning, while situational emphasizes the language learning through authentic situations, such as asking for directions or ordering at a restaurant. The purpose of both approaches are to build language skills around a specific area. While the topical approach organizes lessons around broader subjects, the situational approach focuses on practical and real-world applications. A comparison to the other approaches. Content-based learning, it focuses on teaching content knowledge while integrating language. The role of the student is a learner of the content. They engage with the subject matter and the language. Their methodology, the lessons are structured and all around a specific subject, such as teaching a biology class in only English. A strength of the content base is that it combines content with language development. A drawback from this is that the content may overshadow language development. While on the next side, we have the learner-centered approach. Their main focus is empowering students to take control on their learning and for the students' needs, interests, and experience to be recognized. The role of the student in learner-centered, they are an active participant who takes responsibility for their learning. Their methodology emphasizes student choice, collaboration, and experiential learning. A strength provides real-world experiences and fosters autonomy, while a drawback to this approach, it lacks structures for those who may need more guidance.
And I will,
Learner-centered curricula.
sorry.
You're good. Uh, we refer to curricula where the priority is process rather than content. It is on how learning the environment is arranged. The curriculum is designed around how the learners learn rather than around the goals of what they are trying to learn. An overview of the approaches. We have negotiated curriculum. This places the learner in the driver's seats by requiring teachers to respond to the learner's needs, desires, reflections on the language learning. It empowers learners to become autonomous. The humanistic curriculum. It also empowers learners to become autonomous as well. Teachers become facilitators in the process, and it's based off the early work of humanistic psychologists such as Abraham Maslow. And lastly, task-based curriculum. This focuses on task, and language is the instrument that learners use to participate and complete this task. Learners are afforded opportunities for meaningful interaction with the target language. It's consistent with the communicative language teaching. Some similarities between the approach. They all have a student-centered focus. They prioritize the needs, interests, and experiences of the students and aim to make learning more relevant to them. They all have a holistic development as well, especially the humanistic and negotiative focus. It focuses on overall development of students, such as their emotional, social, and cognitive growth. With these approaches, they are all inherently focused on real-world tasks and practical applications. They incorporate real-life problems. And lastly, they all encourage collaboration amongst the students. Here is a small chart with comparing the other approaches. The main focus for learner-centered, the needs, interests, and experiences of the student, the role of the student. They are an active participant and takes full responsibility for their learning journey. The role of the teacher is a facilitator or guide that supports students in directing their own learning. The methodology is flexible, personalized, and experiential. It often involves discussions and self-directed activities. Comparing it to content-based and linguistic-based, where the main focuses are the subject matter or the content, such as history, science, or math, and the linguistic-based main focus, which is the structure and the use of language, such as grammar, vocabulary, and syntax. The roles of the students are both learners. One focuses on content and language, while the other focuses with vocabulary, grammar, and communication. But they both have to engage with certain subjects. The role of the teacher for content-based is a subject expert who delivers content while integrating language into it, while the linguistic-based instructor focuses on teaching linguistic rules. For the methodology with content and linguistic-based, content-based integrates with language learning with each subject matter, so such as teaching science, vocabulary, and English. Linguistic-based focuses on language structures, drills, and practice, so grammar exercises and vocabulary lists.
Talk about the learning-centered curriculum. Next. And I found a really good citation in our book. This citation talk about the learning-centered curriculum focusing on the learning outcomes rather than the teaching process. Next page. And the purpose of this curriculum to focus on the learning outcomes, demonstrate skills and the real-life roles, and the higher order and the transformational learning. The rationale of this curriculum talks about learner-centered and outcome-driven, high standard and continuous assessment, and the integration of life skills. We will talk about the purpose and the rationale in our approaches. Next. And we found like a really good approach and education in our book for the key concept. The learning-centered approach focuses on the learning outcomes rather than the teaching process. Outcome-based education defines learning objectives as measurable competencies. Standards-based curriculum expresses learning outcomes as global goals broken into can-do statements. And the whole curricular, the learning center curricular talks about the learning outcomes, competence, transformation learning, continuous assessment, lab skills integration, and the road performance. Next. The strength of learning-centered curriculum, it focuses on the learning outcome and the competence-driven, higher ordered skilled integration, flexibility, and the relevance, continuous assessments. That means it really focuses on par- it that means the learners are able to do it after instruction and emphasize measurable learning the result, aligned with the real world task and the roles that help the student to have the critical thinking, leadership, and the problem-solving ability. Its weakness is implementation challenge. High dependency on institutional commitment, potential for narrow focus, criticism of instrumentation, because this curriculum is difficult to implement within the traditional school system. For example, it's like the school year's credits award, and also this curriculum requires a system to the entire educational system to be effective, and also it measured the higher level of competence. That means for some students they cannot involve in this curriculum. Next. And I found like a really good approach that can cover the shortage of learning-centered curriculum, which one is negotiated curriculum. The first challenge is the bolder focus beyond the outcomes. The learning-centered curriculum made overly focus on the task completion and measurable outcomes, leading to a narrowed education scope. But the negotiated curriculum includes the learner-driven goals and emphasizes the development addressing the both academic and the personal goals and need. The second challenge is contextual relevance. For the learning-centered curriculum is the implementation across the diverse contexts lead to the inconsistency and the limited effectiveness. But the negotiated curriculum prioritizes the customized content to meet the specific cultural, social, and the learning needs of students, making it adaptable to the different educational setting. Next. And all our information that we found this book, and I put the reference at the end. And thank you for your listening.